Which celebrity is not as nice as they seem? Given how he was perceived for decades. Bill Cosby. Ellen. I've watched a couple episodes of her show and something always felt off. She has those dead, emotionless eyes. She also always probed a little too much for what's ostensibly supposed to be a light-hearted daytime talk show. I cannot go into further details, but as per someone I work with who has a lot of ties to famous people through family, and has had 2 or 3 experiences with spending time around Ellen, doing whatever she does, etc. Not one story has been positive, and a couple were even more insane than I thought would be the case. From how vivid her description was, there's no way it was made up. As she talked on her experiences one day, I could actually tell that it was very hard for her to do so. I wound up walking up to the front end of our store and happened upon the conversation that already started, so no idea what brought all of this up. But she eventually ended up bawling her eyes out. We have a giant store and she damn near sank it by creating a new deep lake for it to sink in. Ellen was literally an actual person she looked up to highly. Her story is filled with excitement as to how it was made possible that she was able to hang out with her for even a few hours and then immediately turn to that emotional realization that you idolized for so fucking long. Someone who is just straight up fucking terrible and whose private behavior is something you tell your children to actively avoid their whole lives. She mentioned, however, she wouldn't have traded learning that about her for anything. Was a fascinating day to say the least. Didn't she force Mariah Carey to drink alcohol just to prove she was pregnant? Amber Heard, not the victim after all. I hope he takes every penny in her career for what she tried to do to his career and image. I've heard and read a lot of things that say Chevy Chase is extremely rude, condescending, and mean towards others, and a lot of directors don't want to work with Monsieur. Famously, he was uninvited to return to SNL after a late 90s appearance where he went to the writer's room and suggests to one of the gay writers, "Why don't we do a skit where you have AIDS and you come in every week and we wait you?" This, coupled with the fact he was a day one SNL cast members, shows how absolutely disrespectful he was. Yeah, he basically got kicked off from Community for being such a racist douche. He told Donald Glover that people thought he was funnier because he was black. Dan Harmon organized a chant against him in one of their parties or something. They just yelled "fuck you Chevy" or something to him. He's notoriously difficult to work with but apparently great to his fans. Joel McHale told a story about walking up to a food cart and the owner flipped out about how his sister wasn't going to believe he met Chevy. Chevy asked him to call his sister and then yanked the phone out of his hand while it dialed in. Talked to the guy's sister for 20 minutes. Dave Chappelle. He is way nicer than anyone would think. I was about to get so mad. Fucking love Dave Chappelle, God bless that man. Danny DeVito is way nicer than Frank Reynolds. Can confirm Monsieur got to hang out with Danny and his wife Rhea at a fundraising event. Although not overly outgoing, they were both very warm, welcoming and genuinely interested in just having a conversation with you. Great people. But does he have a magnum dong? Have you seen the way he walks? He's slinging summer sausage for sure. So anyway, I started blasting. I've heard Julia Roberts is actually supposed to be a really big bitch. Jared Leto. My uncle is a manager of a famous alternative rock band that shall not be named due to privacy reasons. When I was hanging out with my uncle and the band members backstage when they were in town last year, everyone sort of agreed that Jared Leto is a douchebag, even to other bands. Every story I've read about Leto claims that he is either the nicest dude you'll ever meet or the biggest piece of shit in the universe. There's no in between. He's very nice to girls under 18. Yep, kept hitting on my cousin when she was 15 and they were neighbors. Yuck. I hear Kevin James is a dick first, always thought he would be nice. It's the Paul Blart Mall Cop ego. Which is crazy because people will mix him and Kevin Smith up. And Kevin Smith is supposedly one of those guys who goes out of his way to thank the fans. Which I guess makes sense seeing how he still has fans after Tusk. I'd really like some examples. His nice guy image is all he has going for Hi Monsieur. James Corden. Now I'm not sure if he's still like it, but Mark Wahlberg has a pretty long history of violent racist thuggery. This one is about a dead celebrity, but I think it applies. My grandpa was a boxing promoter in Detroit for many years, and through this he got to know Frank Sinatra some. For those who don't know, Sinatra was a huge fan of boxing, and while he liked Sinatra's music, he said that he would pay girls to scream and faint during his concerts. Kinda dishonest, but I suppose not too terrible in the grand scheme of things. Sinatra apparently suffered from mental illness, most likely bipolar disorder, and would often have violent mood swings. He once threw a television out of a hotel window. He also cheated on his wives openly and with very famous women who were known to get around. They didn't call them the swinging 60s for nothing. And was he even abusive to Eva Gardner? I remember TV tropes mentioned Don Rickles made a joke to Sinatra telling him to make himself at home by hitting someone. Lol, that is absolutely not the worst Frank Sinatra did. And paying girls to scream. Especially if he was young and still coming up. Frank Sinatra publicly cheated on his wife, gallivanting around with Ava Gardner. Broke up with Mia Farrow on the set of a movie that would have been her first big break. Probably beat women, and is rumored to have raped Marilyn Monroe to keep her quiet about her affair with his friend JFK. You can Google that. I'm not sure if it's true, but it wouldn't shock me. He is one of the original "do you know who I am" types, and he was mobbed up. The things that are public are pretty bad. Makes me wonder how bad things no one will ever know about are. And I'm saying this all as a fan who thinks he was one of the most compelling popular singers of the 20th century. No one had a voice or presence like he did. Must have been cool for your grandfather, though. Yes, I'm sure it was. Unfortunately, he passed away about 2.5 years before I was born. So I only know this information from other family members. He knew a few high-profile boxers from back in the day. He said that Joe Louis was a really nice guy, but people took advantage of him because he wasn't very bright. He met Muhammad Ali a few times back when he was Cassius Clay and said he was a good guy, which seems to be the general opinion. But he also said that Jack Dempsey was a big jerk, which, again, appears to be the majority opinion. And while this isn't directly related to boxing, one of my uncles has told me that he also knew George Halas. Frank Sinatra got up to WAAAAY worse than that. For a start, he was mobbed up. There was a joke a comedian told back at the time. Frank Sinatra saved my life last night. His goons were working me over in the parking lot and Frank said, "Alright guys, that's enough." He was a pretty terrible human being by all accounts. Bill Nye by several accounts. Very full of himself. Can confirm Monsieur on a few occasions. People I know who have done well in science fairs have met Hi Monsieur. Apparently he insulted some kids' project at the White House. Others who have seen him in DC asked him for a picture and he said something to the effect of, "No, I'm trying to save the planet," as if taking a picture with some kids who are there doing the same thing is somehow detrimental to his climate activist Monsieur. Gwyneth Paltrow runs a company that deals exclusively in snake oil, psychic energy readings, electromagnetic healing stickers, essential oils, holistic bullshit. Iron Man's wife got some explaining to do. Mike Myers. Seen the man fire people from set for looking at Hi Monsieur. Conversely, Michael Myers is surprisingly affable. I've heard he doesn't murder nearly as many people as is made out to be. Mine Monsieur, my little brother and I once waited for him after a show for 4 hours in the blistering cold and he just said no. I once wrote him a letter and over 6 months went by and I got no word from Hi Monsieur. I really didn't deserve that. Tracy Morgan. I got to meet him. And I worked with his brother for a few years. Nobody has anything good to say about him. Not even his own family. Damn. That's kind of surprising. He also seems batshit crazy in interviews, but that's part of his charm. Apparently his character on 30 Rock, Tracy Jordan, was pretty much written to just be Hi Monsieur. Tina Fey based a lot of Jordan's misadventures on things Morgan had really done when they were on SNL together. And he's even said in interviews that he found the character somewhat cathartic because he was allowed to just be himself and act insane. I love 30 Rock and Trace's character on the show is great. But I can imagine that someone like that would be absolute hell to put up with IRL. Probably well known, but Seinfeld is very much a douche. Also dated a 17-year-old high school student when he was 38. At the height of the show's popularity in the 90s. He just exudes asshole personality to me. I work at a private FBO, basically a terminal for private flights. And we had pilots fly in that told us about their experience with flying Hi Monsieur. Apparently they attempted to make small talk with Seinfeld while they were cruising in the air, and Seinfeld turned to one of the people with him and said something to the effect of, "I prefer my pilots to fly, not talk." There's a store in West Village that proudly displays Ann and Jerry Seinfeld commentary on the windows. The employee in the shop across the street told my friend and I that Larry David's daughter, along with Seinfeld's daughter, went to the store to investigate, and the owner berated them and adamantly defended his stance that Jerry is a piece of shit. I heard Rob Schneider pays guys to choke him in the shower. So what? It's his thing. He doesn't hurt anybody. That doesn't make him bad or even less nice. No kink shaming on Fisto's watch. I suppose I should test you out before I hand you to the Garretts. I met Rob Schneider after a show. He was performing in some podunk town in South Jersey. All morning and day before the show, he went to all the local businesses, took pictures with fans and did autographs. Following that, he did a 2-hour set, and before he got on his tour bus, he made sure he took pictures with everyone that was still there. Really nice guy. Seems like a nice guy rather than asking them to do it for free. Do you think Rob was watching Family Guy and was thinking, what the fuck just happened? 3/4 members of the Beatles were domestic abusers. I've kinda got the opposite, in which a celebrity isn't the *** hole that society paints him to be. A few years back I met Jesse James of West Coast Customs fame and didn't realize it. I was in Reno for the annual air show and was staying at the Hilton. Sat at the bar in the lobby and struck up a conversation with a gentleman next to me for about 20 minutes. He told about how he was in town for a motorcycle show and offered me 2 tickets to the show. I had to decline because I had to travel to my next air show before the motorcycle show started. So instead he bought me a shot and went about his day. I just assumed he was a promoter or a fellow vendor. The next day while working at the air show, the same man comes up to my tent and says that he's sorry that I couldn't make it to his bike show, and gave me a West Coast Customs hoodie. Again, we chatted for a bit. I thanked him for the hoodie and shook his hand. He then went to enjoy the air show. A few months later, I read a headline on TV about Sandra Bullock's husband cheating on her and whose face shows up. Yep, that same cool-ass dude I met just a few months prior was now apparently public enemy no. 1. I didn't care though. He was cool to me, and that's the way I'm always gonna see Hi Monsieur. People fuck up in life and most learn from it. Unless he continues to cheat, lie on all his partners, I'd say he could still be considered a good person. Life isn't as black and white as some would think it to be. I keep hearing that Jennifer Lopez is absolutely the worst in person. I heard that she's actually Mitch Connor. Amber Heard. I was kind of confused when she came out with the allegations against Johnny Depp, because I always heard that Johnny was a really nice guy behind the scenes. turns out that is the case and Amber Heard is just a raging narcissistic bitch. I hope she ends up rotting in a cell for her crimes. She's a rich white woman. I won't hold my breath. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.